In this video, we will explore together 10 of the most incredible, mysterious, and even dangerous human settlements in the world. These places are so special that it's hard to believe they're actually inhabited unless you see them with your own eyes. From bizarre islands to burning cities, from cliffs to mountains of garbage, we'll take a look at these real-life habitats and discover the extraordinary lives and stories that make them so special. Top 10. The Empire of Garbage. In 1969, the mayor of Cairo ordered that all of the capital's scavengers be housed in one neighborhood, and that fortunate neighborhood was called Mansiat Nasir. All those who came here for the first time were struck down by an incredible stench that cannot be described in words. It's a horrible combination of rotting fruits, spoiled food, and the smell of rotting dog and cat carcasses. Garbage bags, broken bottles, tattered newspapers, discarded boards, cans, wrappers, and all sorts of other garbage flow freely in Manchatenas. Almost all the residents in this neighborhood are engaged in the same occupation, that of sorters. But people prefer to translate the name as garbage man or Zabaran man. Garbage particles, soot and dust make up about 25% of the air density here. Dirt is suspended in the air, lands on faces and lungs, and covers the bread and cake sold in cafes. The locals joke that there will be no flies here at all, because the stench and dirt keep them from coming and living. Despite the unglamorous working conditions, the Zabalinites are truly efficient, and it is claimed that they recycle up to 85% of their waste. If this is true, then they would be more than 4 times as efficient as a traditional garbage disposal company. However, disease and poor living conditions are no doubt also particularly common in this sanitary environment. Zabalinis are also among the poorest people in Cairo. If you were born here, it's basically hard to move out of the area, and the idea of seeing no more garbage outside your window may seem like an unattainable dream. Top 9. The Principality of Sealand. When it comes to the smallest country in the world, many people think that it is the Vatican, but in fact, compared to this country, the Vatican can be called a big country, because the Vatican's size is 110 times bigger than him. This is the Principality of Sealand, one of the most famous private countries in the world, located in the English Channel, only 10 kilometers from the coast of Suffolk County, England, UK. His predecessor was one of the many marine forts built by Britain during World War II to protect against German naval invasion, called Fort Fury. In September 1967, retired British Royal Navy Lieutenant Commander Paddy Roybates discovered the abandoned fort, occupied it, and declared that he had exercised sovereignty over it as an independent country. The entire Duchy of Sealand covers an area of only 550 square meters, and its members, mainly the Roy-Beats family and their relatives and friends, top only 22, with a permanent population of less than 5. They had their own currency, laws, national flag, and national emblem, and they also sell passports to countries all over the world. And the buyers are mostly international criminals or people who are not recognized by other countries. At its highest number, as many as 150,000 passports of the Principality of Sealand were in international circulation. Such a slightly ridiculous country would certainly not be recognized internationally, but the Bates family was sworn to defend his sovereignty. In 1968, a British patrol boat approaching the Duchy of Sealand was stopped by Roy Bates and his son firing their guns and burning a flat at the boat still. Afterward, Roy Bates was brought before a British court for trial, but had no authority to intervene because the incident occurred off the British waterfront, which is an international high seas. Soon after, Roy Bates was acquitted. In fact, in the legal sense, the Principality of Sealand was established on the international high seas area, and has its own fixed territory as well as permanent residence. He is a legal state, but no country has yet recognized his legitimacy. Top 8. The Underground City. South Australia is the driest part of Australia. To the west is the Great Victoria Desert and to the east is the Simpson Desert. However, in this desolate land, there is a thriving town called Cubicle. When you come here you will notice that there are only a few buildings in the desolate desert. Due to the dry weather in Cubicle, the temperature is extremely high during the day, the surface temperature alone can reach 40 to 50 degrees Celsius, and in the winter, it gets very cold again. In order to cope with the harsh environment, the people here chose to dig a hole in the ground, not realizing that digging and digging had unearthed a city with as many as 3,500 inhabitants. But you may wonder why they didn't just move out of the city if they had to go through the trouble of digging a hole in the ground for their home. It turns out that there are highly valuable treasures hidden underneath this barren land. Despite the sandy, inhospitable environment of Cubicle, there are valuable opals underneath. 96% of the world's opals come from Australia, and Cubicle is a major source. But opal is one of the world's top 6 gemstones, with its brilliant colors, translucent luster and ceramic texture. Most of the inhabitants are here because of the gemstone. When you come to Cubicle, you will find that all activities are conducted underground, not only the residents' houses, but also the hotels for tourists, the bars for relaxation, and even the churches for prayers. In spite of the harsh environment, the inhabitants of this area have built the world's only golf course made of stone instead of grass, in a bittersweet way. Top 7. Lonely Rock. Located on the south coast of Iceland, the island of Islandi covers an area of 450,000 square meters. The whole island is surrounded by the sea on all sides, and the locations near the sea are all 180-degree cliffs. The only way to get to the island is by helicopter or by climbing rope. There is only one house on the whole island, and it can be said that the owner of this house has monopolized the whole island, and has also lived on this island for 20 years. Although many people envy this kind of life, but in fact the environment on Islandi Island is not as beautiful as imagined. There was not a single tree on the island, and all the green that the naked eye could see was moss. Due to the lack of transportation, shortages of supplies were the norm. Initially, more than one owner of this house lived on Islandi Island. In the past, there was an abundance of seabirds here, and their tasty meat attracted many people to hunt them for a living. Gradually, however, the seabirds stopped coming to this island and people had to make a living by fishing at sea. However, due to the terrain and environment of the island, fishing at sea became very difficult, so the islanders gradually moved away. Today, the only house left on this lonely rock is this one. However, this house is so conspicuous on the island that it has become a famous tourist attraction, attracting many tourists every year, who are eager to feel the solitude of having an entire island all to themselves on Islandi Island. Top 6. Hong Kong's Cubicle Apartments. In the bustling city of Hong Kong, some of its residents live in what are known as cage homes, or cubicle apartments. These living spaces are incredibly small, often compared to cages or cubicles, and they house people in conditions worse than those in Hong Kong's Stanley Prison. In Stanley Prison, inmates have cells that are at least twice the size of these cubicle apartments. These apartments, typically found in old buildings or high-rises, offer deplorable living conditions. Many are cramped, lack windows, and have poor ventilation. The living density is extremely high, with narrow hallways that can be confusing to navigate. Despite the harsh conditions, residents choose these cubicles because they have no better affordable housing options. The average size of these cubicle apartments is around 3 square meters or less. However, the monthly rent can be as high as 2,000 Hong Kong dollars, approximately $250. To put this in context, Hong Kong's minimum wage is around 8,200 Hong Kong dollars per month, making these living conditions unaffordable for many residents. Most of the occupants come from the lower socioeconomic strata of society and endure grim living conditions. Despite the challenges, they attempt to make the most of their limited space, personalizing it to make it feel like home. The Hong Kong government is taking steps to address the housing issue, with a focus on providing public housing as a priority. Their goal is to end the era of cubicle apartments by 2049. However, the challenge of affordable housing remains significant in Hong Kong, making these cubicle apartments a haunting reminder of the city's housing crisis. Top 5. The One-Stop Town. On the northwestern tip of the North American continent, in a forgotten part of the state of Alaska, there is a town that is known to be the loneliest town in the world called Whittier. The total population of this town is only about 300 people. It gets its name from the neighboring Whittier Glacier, which keeps the town's temperature at about 20 degrees below zero all year round. The town's uniqueness also lies in its location. It is surrounded by 3 mountains and on the other side by water, and is almost entirely snow-capped. The only way to enter the town is through an almost invisible tunnel, a narrow passageway that closes at 10:30 p.m. every night, closing the town off completely. Almost all of the town's residents live in a 14-story building. This building was a complete world to the people of the town, containing stores, a post office, a gym, various entertainment venues, and even the mayor's office, a school, a police station, and a hospital. This means that the people of the town can live in complete isolation, in their own fortress, without having to interact with the outside world. In recent years, the town of Whittier has attracted a large top of tourists as its reputation has grown. It is said to receive over 700,000 visitors each summer. Would you like to experience a life with zero contact or interaction with the outside world? Top 4. The most crowded island. In the waters of Colombia, there is a small island called Santa Cruz, also known as the most crowded island in the world. This small island has an area of only 0.01 square kilometers, which is about the size of 2 soccer fields, but it is inhabited by more than 1,200 people. The population density is so high that it is almost 100,000 people per square kilometer, far exceeding that of Manhattan Island, the busiest island in New York, which has a population density of about 27,000 people per square kilometer. The island's population density is almost 4 times that of Manhattan and 9 times that of Beijing. Looking down on Santa Cruz Island from above, the layout of the houses alone is breathtaking. Almost every space on the island is fully utilized, with no extra open space. What made Santa Cruz Island so popular initially was the lack of mosquitoes on the island. This was a godsend for South America, which is located in a sweltering, humid region that is infested with mosquitoes. As a result, more and more people have come to settle on the island over the past 150 years. Incredibly, there is only one school on Santa Cruz Island, the only one in these waters, and children from nearby islands need to come to school by boat every day. In addition, there are no commercial streets or resorts to build, so even though it attracts a lot of tourists, there are no hotels at all to stay in unless you stay in a residence home. In addition, there is no electricity on the island, and the only source of power is a generator that only works for 5 hours a day to ensure the basic electricity needs of the residents. In addition, there is no doctor on the island, and if someone falls ill, they must travel by boat to the nearest port city, which is a 2-hour boat ride away. If someone dies on the island, there is not even enough land to bury them. Top 3. Poison Gas Island. Miyake Island is an island located in the Izu Islands, part of Japan's volcanic archipelago. It sits approximately 180 kilometers south of Tokyo. Historically, this island served as a place of exile for criminals, but it features a relatively pleasant climate with an average temperature of around 17 degrees Celsius. However, the island is no stranger to volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. In the year 2000, Miyakejima Island experienced a volcanic eruption that lasted over 4 years, leading to the complete evacuation of its inhabitants. In April 2013, the island endured 21 earthquakes in a single day, with the highest registering a magnitude of 6.5. Under normal circumstances, such a location would not be considered suitable for human habitation. Nevertheless, despite the frequent volcanic eruptions and earthquakes, over 2,000 Japanese residents call this island home. Due to the continuous volcanic activity, approximately 1/3 of the island is restricted, as it is surrounded by toxic gases like sulfur dioxide. To prevent sudden increases in sulfur levels in the air, residents have adapted to living as if every day were doomsday, donning gas masks before venturing outside. While this might seem inconceivable to many, some adventurous tourists still visit Miyake Island, showing remarkable courage. Considering the ongoing seismic and volcanic threats, alongside the necessity of wearing gas masks, it's a challenging way of life that many might find hard to accept. Top 2. City in the Sky. The word, Fanjing, in the name of Mount Fanjing implies the serenity and purity of Buddhism. Fanjing Mountain is so famous not only because of its picturesque scenery, but also because it is one of the 5 most famous Buddhist mountains in China and has an important position in the history of Buddhism. However, more people come to the mountain because of the 2 temples on the summit. The Buddha Temple, dedicated to Sakyamuni representing the present, and the Maitreya Temple, dedicated to Maitreya Buddha representing the future. These 2 temples are located at the New Golden Dome, which is about 2,336 meters above sea level, with a vertical difference of more than 100 meters compared to the foot of the mountain. From a distance, the New Gold Peak looks like a bamboo breaking out of the ground standing among the peaks. To reach the Red Cloud Gold Peak, visitors must be prepared to climb nearly 9,000 steps to reach the legendary Buddha Temple. This is the equivalent of climbing 381 stories in a standard building. With such steep slopes, it is already very strenuous just to climb. Even today, it is still a challenging task to build a temple on top of such a hill. However, the ancient architects not only succeeded in this task, but also built these 2 temples in one fell swoop, with an ancient stone bridge between them, which is still well preserved and is already 1,000 years old. This makes one wonder. For the ancient people, how on earth did they transport the materials needed for construction to the top of the mountain? And how did they build that ancient stone bridge between these 2 temples? Until today, the construction method of these 2 temples remains an unsolved mystery. Top 1. The Burning Town. Centuria was once a thriving town in Pennsylvania, USA, known for its coal mining. However, the town is now a ghost town due to a coalfield fire that lasted for almost 60 years that has yet to be extinguished and has even disappeared from the map. The town of Centralia abandoned its coal mines in the 1960s, turning them into landfills, and burning the waste was a common method of disposing of it. One particularly hot year is remembered by the locals, and while the lit pile of garbage was supposed to go out after burning for some time, unfortunately it was still burning the next day. It was later realized that this was because the fire clay had not been placed in the dump as it should have been, causing the fire to ignite the underground coal seam. Even if the surface fire was successfully extinguished, it was difficult to stop the spread of the unseen fire in the underground coal seam. Within just a few weeks, the fire quickly spread to other abandoned coal mines around the area. It is nearly impossible to completely extinguish such underground fires, and there is no guarantee of success, even though the construction budget has reached $6.6 billion. Depending on how the fire burns, the underground fire in the town of Centuria will need to burn for approximately 250 more years. Over time, residents of neighboring towns have moved away. Today, the once glorious town has become an uninhabited and abandoned city. The government has enacted a law that no one is allowed to live in the city anymore because of the risk to life and limb if they are not careful. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe my channel. See you next time.